Hey guys, and welcome to another video tutorial on Xero. My name is Samuel Burmeister. I'm the owner here at Toolbooks. Today's video, I'm going to take you through setting up the perfect bankroll in Xero. So to get started, let me explain a little bit about what a bankroll is and where you can find them in Xero. So under Reconcile, you'll see here in the business bank account, you can click on that, and we have our normal reconciliation screen. Okay, so on this screen here, on the left-hand side is the bank transactions, on the right is what we're going to do with them in Xero. Now, I've gone into this in detail in the reconciliation videos. However, with bank rules, you can save a lot of time by automating common transactions that don't require a bill or an invoice. So common uses for bank rules could be wage payments, owner deposits and withdrawals, small transactions like staff amenities, entertainment, parking, and petrol. These are common things that people might use rules for. And in this case here, you can see they've set up a rule for whenever they go to 7-Eleven. So if I click on the rule here, it'll open up the bank rules area in Xero and show me specifically this rule. So the rule they've got set up here is a spend money rule. So it only applies to withdrawals. They've said when money spent on the bank statement matches a payee containing 11. So basically if the payee from the bank text comes up and it has 11 in it, it will automatically apply this rule. That rule will be set to the contact of 7-Eleven, and the description will be miscellaneous corner store, sent to the office expenses account with GST. Then they've given the rule a title of 7-Eleven. So it's pretty straightforward. If you want to see all rules in Xero, you can go to the bank rules section. So up here, I'll show you what that looks like. You've got spend money rules, receive money rules, and transfer rules. So spend money is set up when you make a rule on a withdrawal. Receive money for deposits, and transfer rules are used to apply a rule on any transfer between bank accounts set up within Xero. This applies for bank accounts and credit cards. So an easy way to get here, from the dashboard, you'll see your bank accounts and credit cards listed on the left-hand side. So we've got one here. If you click the options button here, the three dots, and go to bank rules on the right, you'll bring up that screen we were just on. And that's how you get to the bank rules section. So let me show you how to set up a perfect bank rule so that in future you can make sure they always apply and do what you want them to do first time, every time. So from the dashboard, we're going to go into the reconcile screen again. So click on reconcile, and I'm going to create a rule on the spot for a common transaction here. So let's have a look through. You can see in the demo file, we have a parking expense. Someone's asked me how they code it, so they're not quite sure. I'm going to set up a rule so that whenever parking appears on the bank statement, it just goes to the parking fees expense account. So I can either just click create rule here if I want to make a spend money withdrawal rule, or I can drop down the arrow and choose from some options here. So because this is a withdrawal, I'm going to choose spend money, and we're going to set up a rule for parking. Now, you could have a rule for every type of parking, but if you want to set it up properly, take the parking word from Central City Parking and make that the rule. So you don't have to make a new rule every time you use a different parking company. So just remember that. So the first thing you need to know about bank feed rules is only use one line. So if multiple lines appear here, sometimes you'll have 3 or 4, delete all of them except one like we have here. Then what we needed to do is change payee to any text field, and equals will change to contains. So by doing that, we're saying any text field that contains the words we're going to choose, the rule will be applied on that. So if you don't do that, it's too specific and you won't get the outcome you're after every time. So we're going to say any text field contains parking, we want the contact to go to parking. So once again, you could have city parking, city of this parking, you name it, park stay, etc. But at the end of the day, it's not worth the time. Choose one default supplier if it's something like parking, something small, and that way they can all be grouped under the one supplier. If it's for a specific company or employee, of course, put in that supplier's name. But in the case like this where you're wanting to group small expenses, just use a name like parking. Okay, so once that's done, we do step 1, step 2, we go to step 4. You don't have to worry about 3. With 4, we're just going to give a description that will always be relevant for this rule. So we're going to say parking fee, we'll allocate it to the parking fees account, and there's GST on expenses as parking fees do incur GST. And if they're related to visiting a client or doing your work, you can claim them for GST. Okay, so we've done step 1 to specify when the rule applies, step 2 to say who the supplier is, step 4 to lay out the rule. So we're saying it's a parking fee going to the parking fees account with GST. And finally, what we do is choose which bank accounts we want it to apply on. If you have multiple accounts that pay expenses, change this to all bank accounts. Otherwise, if you're just using one key account, you can leave it as targeting the bank account you're on right now. And that way it will only apply this rule to that specific bank account. So once you've done step 6, the last step is number 7, give the rule a title. So we'll give it something specific like parking fees. That way we know this rule is for parking. We'll save it. And we can go see if our rule was applied correctly. You can see here parking fees bank rule is saved. So I'll scroll down to the parking. And now if I go to create, you'll see it automatically pops up with my parking fees rule. The contact name is parking, and I can simply click OK, and that's now allocated, saving me a lot of time and improving accuracy by sending the same type of transaction to the same account every time. If we scroll down, you'll see it's picked it up again on a transaction in the future. You can click OK, and that's reconciled. So setting up rules is essential to good bookkeeping, especially for small, simple transactions. Make sure any transaction that needs an invoice or a bill entered still follows that process. But for common, simple transactions, owner, deposits, withdrawals, wages, etc., set up a rule and save yourself a lot of time. So lastly, I'm just going to show you back in that bank feed, the bank rules section that we looked at earlier, how to find your new rule. So we go back to dashboard, click on the 3 dots, bank rules, and now under the spend money rules, we should see 2, and you can see our parking fees has been added. And that's how you add a rule that will work for you every time.